Welcome to our special SBA info session. My name is Shahiwa Jarrett Gellin, and I'm the founder and president of the Broward County Black Chamber of Commerce. And welcome. You know that we are always trying to make sure you have the latest and greatest information when it comes to the things that your business needs. Now, we already had a session on the PPP, and I know you know by now that that deadline was changed from the end of March until the end of May. So you make sure you get those applications in on time. I don't think they're going to have any more deadline extensions for you. Get it on in. But now there's another special program that the SBA is rolling out, and we want you to know about it before it comes out. So we have a special guest joining us here today, Althea Harris, who will share some basics about the program, how to apply, who's eligible, and how to get prepared, right? Let's learn a little bit about our speaker, and then we'll bring her on. Now, Althea A. Harris, Esquire, is the Assistant District Director for Marketing and Outreach. She has been helping businesses for 25 years when she started her federal career in 1993 at the U.S. Department of Commerce under the late Secretary Ronald H. Brown. There she traveled worldwide in support of small and medium-sized exporters. Then she helped small business owners compete for federal contracts while at the U.S. General Services Administration. Having held several positions within the SBA office in Miami since 1999, Althea now serves as the Assistant District Director for Marketing and Outreach for Area 1. Just a little bit about her background. She is a graduate of Howard University and the University of Miami School of Law. I always give a whoop whoop on that. And she's also active in her community. She serves as a board member for the Miami Youth for Christ and on the missions committee for Christ Journey Church in Coral Gables. So without further ado, we are going to welcome Ms. Althea Harris to the program.
Hi, Shahiwa. How are you?
Good. We're so happy to have you. You're always making sure that you get out there in the community, and our community especially, doing that extra outreach to make sure our businesses understand the resources and the money that SBA has coming out.
Absolutely. We don't want anybody to miss out on the opportunity to revitalize their business, to make it through the pandemic. You know, the thing that we know at SBA is that, it has been said over and over again, because it's true, that small businesses literally are the lifeblood of our economy. So we have been doing gangbusters to make sure that small businesses have access to the monies that Congress has appropriated for them to manage through and ideally succeed through, thrive through the pandemic. And so we do have a new one that has come out that I'm excited to talk to you about.
All right. And we're going to pull up your presentation because I know you're going to give us some details on the program and how to apply, et cetera. And so we're excited to learn more about that. So let me go to the beginning.
Yeah, that's the SBA. And so you all may not be keeping up with exactly how much legislation has been passed, but last month, the American Rescue Plan Act was passed by Congress in March, and they appropriated $28.6 billion for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. And they've authorized SBA to dispense those funds. Why? Because we know that restaurants have been so hard hit by COVID, right? The shutdown and the social distancing, and even where communities are open and restaurants are open, because of social distancing requirements, that has had an impact on their capacity, right? So a restaurant that used to have 100, could seat 100, can now only maybe seat 35. And that has an impact over time on them. So this is really important for the restaurant industry, and we're going to talk about who's eligible. But really important, friends, make sure that you get ready for this application process, because there's only going to be $28.6 billion. And I know that sounds crazy for me to say only, because billions of dollars is not chump change. But when we think about the wholesale numbers of restaurants across the country who will be eligible for this, along with the other types of businesses. We're concerned, that 28.6 billion won't last very long. So you really don't have time to fool around. So this is the time to get ready. Okay. And we'll talk about the time horizon. I'll just talk about it now. The money that you get from the fund, you have until March 11th of 2023 to use it.
Okay.
That's a long time horizon to kind of meet your financial obligations.
Exactly. No, that's a significant period of time. So people should be able to do what they need and get what they need done in that time frame.
Right.
So going to who's eligible, I guess this is your next slide. Everybody wants to know, can I get someone?
That's right. And totally understandable. They want to know who is eligible. Long, big list of who is eligible. And it starts with restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts, caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, taverns, snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars like coffee shops and ice cream shops. Now, for the next group of business types that I mentioned, their on-site sales to the public must constitute a third of their gross receipts in order to be eligible. So those businesses include bakeries, brew pubs, tasting rooms, tap rooms, breweries, microbreweries, wineries, distilleries, and inns. So those are not the same as hotels and motels who are ineligible. We're talking about inns where, they typically have lodging and a restaurant. But again, they're going to need a third of their gross receipts to be from the sale of food and beverage. So that's primarily who the Restaurant Revitalization Fund is targeted towards. Those businesses whose primary purpose is serving food and drink. So that's really important to know who in terms of who's eligible.
Okay.
So it's a big group.
No, it is a large group. And so on-site just means if I'm walking through the door and if I purchase there, even if I walk out with the food or the beverage, some people kind of have those walk-up restaurants or food sites that will count too.
That'll count. Yep. The walk-up windows, the food trucks, absolutely. It's a big group of people who are eligible.
Yes. Okay. And I see you have a little bit more eligibility information here.
Yeah, there are going to be some people who are not eligible for this funding. And so it's really important for them to know who is and isn't eligible, right? So if any of these describes you, you are not eligible for funding under the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. So it's going to be those state or local government operated businesses. So for example, up there in Broward, maybe, I don't know who owns the convention center, but let's just say it's Broward County and they own the concession shops inside. Those concession shops would not be eligible for funding because they're owned by local government.
Okay.
Right. And then if as of March 13th of last year, you own or operate a business with more than 20 locations, regardless of whether those locations do business under the same name or different names or are in different industries. So SBA has an affiliation rule. And so, wonderful entrepreneurs who own fabulous businesses and lots of them are not eligible for this funding. Really important, if you have a pending application for or have received a grant under the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant Program, you're not eligible.
Okay, that's important.
Yeah, so you've got to choose one or the other. And then it could be that, because like say, for instance, shuttered venues are venues where they also may sell food, right? So like maybe I'm going to make this up because I don't think this is actually one of those types of venues, but call it, let's say, a wedding venue where they have fixed seating and catering too. Well, they can't have a venue operator grant for the venue part and a restaurant revitalization fund for the restaurant part or the food service part. So you have to pick one. If you're publicly traded, you're not eligible. If you're permanently closed, if your business is closed, you're not eligible. Neither are nonprofits. And you have to be eligible to receive at least $1,000 of funding. So you and I were talking about that earlier, right? Like, what kind of business would that be? And I think that the idea there is that, this is for businesses, legitimate businesses, not hobbies. And if we can't see our way past giving you $1,000, then I think the assumption may be that this is not your bread and butter.
Right. Not your full-time focus here.
Right. So we're really looking at those businesses that are employers. So what can you spend the money on?
Right.
That's a great question, because it's really important, because what we know is that businesses have been really suffering. So there are three categories of expenses you can use the money on. And those are your regular business expenses, construction expenses, and your business debt. So under the business expenses, right, you can use it for payroll. Because, I don't know if you're catching a theme, Shahiwa, in all the things that we talk about, but the United States government is very interested in people staying on payroll, right? Because small businesses employ over half of the workforce. And if half did you know that? Yeah. And they create 2/3 of the net new jobs. So this is why I say small businesses really do sustain the economy. And if people don't have money to feed their families, that's a problem. And so we're very heavily invested in people staying employed, keeping the unemployment rates low as best as we can. It's a marker of success as a country, right? Right. As a nation. So you can use it on business utilities, maintenance expenses, your supplies. In the case, since this is for restaurants and the like, your food and beverage expenses, including your raw materials. So, everything you need to make that fabulous pudding you make, you can use this, fund, the funds here. Supplier costs and your operating expenses, right? And then in construction, you can use it to build some outdoor seating, because remember we talked about how capacity is diminished, right? But what you can't do is use this fund to, say, open a second location. That kind of expansion is not permitted as a use of funds. And then business debt. You can make payments on any of your business mortgage obligations, principal and interest, which is different from the PPP, where you could only make interest payments. But what you cannot do is you cannot take the money from this fund and say pay off your debt. You've got to use it to service your debt. Right. And so that's a big important distinction about what you can use it for.
And I like this. It seems like under the business expenses, it's a little bit more expansive than, the PPP, specifically because, it's for a specific sector. So you're trying to make sure, hey, you can spend that money on your business, food and beverage expenses, whereas the PPP funds were a little bit more restrictive. So
that's right. And this is a lot more flexible in the same way how the EIDL is, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan that we do, but this is not a loan. This is a grant.
Right.
So that's, that's good.
An important fact.
Yes, an important distinction.
Exactly.
All right.
So now when we know a bit about it, it's like, when can we apply?
Right. It's sounding good, right? I want in. Okay. Well, we're going to be launching it soon. And I do mean soon. So it's really important that you all get yourselves ready. But before it launches for everyone, we're engaging in a pilot period where we have randomly selected existing PPP borrowers who have self-identified that they're members of the Restaurant Revitalization Fund priority group. And I'll tell you about that in a moment. But those pilot participants are going to help us work out the kinks, right? We don't want to launch this thing and, have this barrage of folks and we can't really manage. So we're going to be doing a pilot. And during that pilot period, we'll work all that out. But the people in the pilots, those businesses won't receive money before anybody else, okay? So then the program is going to launch. And in the first 21 days, SBA will accept applications from everyone who's eligible, but we're only going to process those applications from businesses owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged applicants. Okay, and we'll talk about who those people are. And then day 22, all eligible applications will be processed and funded until the money is all gone. So again, you want to be one of the first few, right, who are applying for this and not missing the, missing the boat. So before we go on to the next slide, let me tell you who these priority groups are. I mentioned women, veterans. Okay, if you're a woman, if you're a veteran, because you either have a DD 214 or you don't.
Exactly.
Okay, so everybody knows who you are if you're a woman or a veteran. Okay, but socially and economically disadvantaged are people, when we talk about socially disadvantaged, we're talking about, and socially and economically disadvantaged, we're talking about some folks who are presumed to be disadvantaged. Those are African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans. Those folks are presumed to be disadvantaged. So they will just self-certify, I'm African American, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other. And they'll just check the boxes. Okay, but that's not enough, right? If, for example, you own your business with someone else.
Right.
Okay. So in order to be considered in this group, 51% or more of the business must be owned and controlled by a woman, a veteran, or socially and economically disadvantaged applicant. They can together form that majority. So for example, if you have a, let's see, and by the way, you don't get credit for being more than one thing.
Okay.
So if you're a Black woman veteran and you own 49% with someone who is none of those things, right? So a white male, for example, owns 51% of your business, then you're not allowed to check the box for the priority group. However, Shahiwa, if you and say your sister own the business with your brother, and presumably you're all African American, you meet the threshold. But if you are, say, 5 owners and 2 are women and the other 3 are not any of the categories, the 2 women together only own 40% of the business. So then they would not qualify. But
for this priority period. Okay.
Yeah, just for this priority period, exactly. So, you got to watch that stuff, and please be who you say you are. I'm just trying to tell you, people do you know how many people drop a dime to the IG?
They should. Stop trying to take advantage of programs that's not for you.
Just saying. And the thing about these programs, you went to law school. Listen, the government, it's not just, that we want to get the money back, right? The civil penalties, the money, criminal penalties associated with lying to the government or trying to defraud the government. And you know what, friends, it's just not worth it, because even to defend yourself, you'll go broke. Even if you didn't do anything wrong, don't do anything even slightly shady, or maybe on the line, because you'll go broke paying Shahiwa to keep you out of jail.
No, exactly. And then the it's just a priority period, or if you're dealing with something else, any other certification, it's like, be honest, it's not worth it, and you ultimately hurt the people who truly need it the most.
Right, indeed. So that's the deal on when you can apply. Okay, so soon, as I said, soon. And so get ready, right? So I'm ready for the next slide, some best practices for you. Listen, take the time now. If you're not in that priority group, then this is a great time for you to pull your documents together, because there are a lot of documents. I'm just telling you. I didn't want to, do Facebook Live on all these documents and sound like a real government bureaucrat. But there are several documents and things that you're going to have to provide for us. So start gathering those documents. And please make sure your documentation is complete. Make sure that you've dotted your I's and crossed your T's, and don't transpose I've said this before, don't mix up your numbers on your bank account. That makes it very hard for us to give you the money. And it's very hard for you to convince us that you're not a fraudster. So take the time, do it right. We will not be processing incomplete applications. So make sure you give us everything all at once, ideally, and sign that 4506T form so we can get your tax return. Nobody's application is getting done without the returns. So if you haven't filed your returns, I suggest that you get on top of that. Particularly if you didn't file your 2019 return. Someone contacted me the other day. Well, what if I didn't do my 2019? I'm like, what are you asking me? It's a requirement. You have to do it. If you don't get that, what do you want from me? I mean, I said it's a must. So if you don't have your 2019 returns done, get them done. 2020, well, technically they're not due because the government gave an extension to what, May 15th, no?
Correct, yes.
Yeah, so they're not technically due.
I like number 2 as well.
Yes, we should always be leveraging our resources. Now, it's not required that you use a CPA or other kind of accounting professional, a bookkeeper, but it might help you. Now, listen, I'm okay with, you accountants saying, hey, you have to pay me for my time and my services, right? I mean, nobody really works for free. But you should not be letting someone else apply for you. That is, I cannot tell you, Shahiwa, how many people have contacted me. Their accountant helped them apply for the PPP or the EIDL. And now all the emails go to the accountant and they hijack it until you give them their money. Or they say, I'm just saying, yes. So do it yourself, but get your accountant or whoever to help you with it, but don't let them be the custodian of your documents or your application. Now, again, dotted I's, cross T's, please don't make any mistakes because you just don't want to be in the world of corrections. Corrections take time. Did I mention that there are 31 million small businesses in America by SBA standards?
Delaying your money.
Millions of people applying for one thing or another to us. Okay, and this is yet one more thing. So please don't be in corrections land. That will not be good for you. You might be like a labyrinth trying to get out. Okay, so take your time, do it right. And then because with the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, one of the things that's going to happen is if you have received PPP money, we're going to deduct the PPP loan amounts that you have received or are about to receive from your grant. So I always like to put examples with policies, they kind of illustrate what I mean. So if we were going to give you, for example, $100,000 in this grant for your business, and you got a PPP loan last year for $10,000, and you got another one in 2020 for $10,000. That means we gave you $20,000 in PPP money. We're going to deduct that $20,000 from the $100,000, and your grant will be $80,000.
Okay.
So if you want to apply for a PPP loan, get on it right away. And get that finished up before you put in your Restaurant Revitalization Fund application, because we need to deduct that. Now, Shahiwa, whenever I say stuff like that, I know somebody's little wheels are turning and they're thinking, no, I'm going to do it after I get the money from the grant so I can get both. Okay, listen, I'm telling you, that is not the right thing to do. And I know people think they're going to be able to plead ignorance. But I'm just saying, it's still going to cost you a lawyer to make us believe that you made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
So we will catch you because these systems do talk to one another. So we do know that you have an EIDL application. We know that you have a PPP application. We're going to know that you have a request for this. We're going to know that you're asking for money under the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. And so once you start, those things start clashing, you just drop out and we think that you're committing fraud, and then it's all over for you. So don't do that. Oh, and remember when I was talking about those priority groups for the pilot? I mean, for the first 21 days.
21 days.
Really important. Do not change your ownership shares in the business to make yourself into this pilot, or excuse me, this priority group. That will automatically disqualify you. So even if that's what you want to do in general, you know, you're getting out of the business really, and you're going to hand it over to your daughters, and you're going to give them, you know, a greater ownership share because you're going to take a smaller, do it after. You cannot do it before. If you do it before, you're going to look suspicious to us, and that automatically disqualifies you from this receiving money under this fund. So just don't do it.
Avoid the appearance of impropriety is the rule.
Please do that. So then we've got some ways that they can get some help. There is a hotline where we will accept applications over the phone. This was to be responsive to those parts of the country that don't have access to broadband. So, you know, in very rural communities, they don't have good quality broadband to be able to make the application successfully. So that's for them. And then you can also reach out to your local district office. That's us if you're anywhere south of Orlando. And we will have help in multiple languages. In fact, we have fact sheets in multiple languages already. I should check and see if we have it in Creole, if that would be help. And I know we have it in Spanish because I downloaded that. But for this market, you know, those would be helpful. So if I have it in Creole, I'll send it to you.
Thank you. No, that would be helpful.
Yeah, just in case. All right, so then this is how you can reach, you know, our office here in South Florida, the SBA office. Really good place to sign up for our newsletters is on our website to see what programming we have. That's sba.gov/South Florida. We have our local resource partners you can find on our website. We have a YouTube channel, and if you flip to the next one, you'll see all our little social media. We just are so cool. We have the National SBA newsletter. If you sign up for that, put your zip code in, you'll get our updates as well. We have Twitter, you know, links, and you know, if you can't sleep at night, feel free to peruse our website. There's all kinds of information on there. If you go to sba.gov/relief, it's a comprehensive list of all of the economic aid options that are still available, which include the PPP, like you said, until the end of May. It still includes the SBA's Economic Injury Disaster Loan. We just announced this month we're taking applications for increases for folks who were maxed out. We're working on the targeted EIDL advance and the supplemental advance. That's happening right now. The Shuttered Venue Operators Grant and the Restaurant that opened today. The Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, that opened today for applications. And then the Restaurant
retweeted you guys. We retweeted that information.
Thank you. Yeah, that folks have been waiting for that for a long time. And our experiences with that made it clear that we should do a pilot with the restaurants.
I figured as much when as you explained the pilot program. So this is good information that you provided, and good information to stay connected. I would say, you know, at this point, I love the fact that you had all the different lists of relief available. That's kind of, you know, out there. It shows that you all are really trying to reach out and help. And so it's just about making sure people know what you're doing, your outreach, and then they're prepared to really take advantage
That's
of
the
the
key.
program.
Now, if I may, when we do our webinar sessions from the
Mhm.
South Florida District Office, we go into those documents I mentioned that are going to be
Okay.
required, the calculations, because you get to, do some calculations, and it'll help you know what ballpark you're in for the grant.
Okay.
So I do encourage folks to go sign up for our e-blasts on our website. You can be aware of those. We publicize a lot of our programming through Eventbrite. If you look up
Mhm.
SBA South Florida, so there are a number of different ways to get at this information.
Yeah.
But we are here to help. Hashtag here to help. Uh, so really, I mean, I'm being funny, but it's of course very serious. We really
No.
want these businesses to rebound. You have so many there in Broward, and I want to thank you so much, Shahiwa, for allowing me to be with you tonight. We want those businesses. And I tell people, listen, okay, maybe you don't need this. This is not for you because you're not a restaurant or a caterer. But
Right.
listen, don't you have a place you really like to eat? Don't you want to
Right.
make sure they stay in business? Well,
Yeah.
let them know about
Right.
this
Right.
opportunity to
Right.
stay in business. I told all the ones I like to eat, where I like to eat.
No,
Oh,
and
now.
that's what it is too. It's, we encourage people when we put this out. Yeah, you may be able to benefit, but if not, spread the word, because the point is, at the end of the day, we have to make sure that our businesses survive the
Yeah,
pandemic. And for some, they don't have a pickup window or whatever. And, so it's like they're operating at the 50% and trying to make it. And they
right.
need these different programs such as the PPP, and now this program specifically for restaurants who were
Yeah.
hit extremely hard.
Yep.
And some are just, quite frankly, struggling. So I
Yep.
appreciate this. I literally walked in some communities this past weekend to make sure people knew about the
Oh,
program, and I'll
thank you for
continue to
doing
do
that.
that. I will continue to
Yeah,
do
thank you for doing that. I really appreciate it. They have that 21 days to
that. Hmm.
get ahead of everything. Oh, you know what I didn't tell you real quick, and then I got to go, is we are also, in order to make sure that folks, because I know folks are going to worry, right, that they're not going to get access to this money, but they will, because SBA has set aside monies so that certain groups of folks will definitely have
Okay.
access to the
Okay.
funds. For example, $5 billion is going to be set aside for applicants whose 2019 gross receipts are not more than $500,000. Another
Okay.
4 billion is going to be set aside for those folks between, half a million to $1.5 million.
Yeah.
But
Lower.
$500 million, $500 million will be set aside for those with gross receipts of not more than 50,000. So
That's
even the
critical.
smallest of small
Yes.
businesses will be able to,
Yes. Yes.
they're gonna, and the SBA reserves the right to reallocate those monies. So if we find that we need more money for the smaller small businesses, we'll do what we have to do to make sure that they get it. Because the largest grant amount is $5 million,
Okay.
and capped at 10 million for one applicant, right? So they can't have more than 10 million, but that's a big chunk of change to come out
Right.
of the fund, and the smallest grant amounts are 1,000. So
Right.
we're going to see to it that the smallest small businesses have access to the funds. But in the meantime, y'all get ready, get ready, get ready, and we're
Yeah.
here to
No,
help.
exactly. Exactly. I love this. Thank you. Thank you for always making sure we're focused. I love that tidbit at the end, that we're focused on the smallest of the small, because as you started with at the beginning of the session, small business, and I always say small business is the economic engine of our local economies.
That's
And it's not cliche, that's just what it is. They employ more people than the larger corporations. So we need them to survive. So thank you so much,
right.
Althea, for joining us and sharing this important information.
Yes, it's my pleasure. Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate you,
All
Shahiwa.
right. No problem. No problem. I'll see you next time.
Take care, friend. Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for our special program to bring you some facts and information about the new SBA program, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. I know from personal experiences with my chamber members who are caterers, who have food trucks, who have restaurants, obviously, who suffered during the pandemic. So I was extremely excited to see that there was a program dedicated to the sector and the industry that really got hit hard during this pandemic. And quite frankly, some of them are still really struggling right now, can use the extra help. So I hope this information was informational for you. It was helpful for you. And so the point here now is to get ready, and we will make sure that we keep you informed. As soon as the link comes out and you can apply, the portal, we'll be posting that. When we wrap up this video and it's archived on our Facebook page, please look below for links to the application. They have a sample application. We'll make sure we include that as a link. And we'll include all the links that you saw at the end of this programming that Althea shared with us, just so you're aware of the other programs that can help you as well. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we'll look forward to seeing you in our next program for National Small Business Week. We have a whole series, and we'll see you that week to celebrate the heart, the spirit, and really the bravery of the entrepreneur here in America. Have a good night.